Hello, my name is Saf Khan, and today I'll be joined with my co-host Vishwa Salem to discuss the 76ers' future as they recently added Doc Rivers to be their new head coach after firing Brett Brown after getting swept in the first round by the Celtics. To begin with, I am a fan of the Doc Rivers hiring because of his experience with the Magic, Celtics, and obviously the Clippers, who he just parted ways with. As a coach, Doc Rivers has had deep playoff runs while also actually winning at NBA Finals back in 2008 with the Celtics, who had a talented roster led by Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Rajon Rondo. Brett Brown, who just got fired by the Sixers, has only gone to the playoffs 3 times in his last 8 years, in which the first 5 seasons were without playoffs and the Sixers finishing off 14th and 15th almost every season. I am not a Brett Brown hater, but I'm sure the Sixers will have more success with Doc Rivers being their new head coach. Vishwa, what are your thoughts on the Doc Rivers hiring?
Well, thanks, Saf. In my opinion, Doc Rivers, him as the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, is a big W. There are many reasons why I feel like Rivers is a huge upgrade over Brett Brown. And before we get into any of those details of why the 76ers are going to become a much better team, I'm going to be giving some details of his tenure with the Clippers first. When you look back at the Clippers, this past season for them, it was actually a pretty big success in the regular season. They were doing pretty excellent, besides players getting injured constantly. But in the playoffs, I don't feel like they should really be blaming Rivers that much. As you guys can see, the players just did not have any sort of chemistry. They had the talent. They had Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Lou Williams, Patrick Beverley, Montrezl Harrell, and a lot of shooting off the bench and defense as well. But it's clear that the group just didn't mesh. In addition, I feel like Kawhi Leonard would succeed way more with a playmaking point guard as he did with Kyle Lowry. So not much of it is going to be blamed on Doc Rivers, as it shouldn't be blamed on Rivers. I'm going to be explaining more of that in our coming up video, but as you guys can see, Doc Rivers, it's not his fault that he did not have a great tenure with the Clippers with Kawhi and PG. In addition to this, when you look at the 76ers roster, Rivers has spoken so highly about so many of the players. He coached many stars like Kevin Garnett, Kawhi Leonard, Paul Pierce, and currently he's going to be working with Embiid and Simmons. He even coached Tobias Harris back then, and he explained Harris as having a terrific in-between game. He has a terrific shot. He can be a big 3 or a quick 4. So he already has some great chemistry with Harris, even though many of you guys think that Tobias should not be on the team next season. In addition to that, Rivers was actually thinking of taking a break of coaching, and until he couldn't refuse the offer Elton Brand, the GM, offered to coach the 76ers. They have such a talented roster with Embiid and Simmons. He feels like a lot of the guys on the Sixers, they're really young, and they can create constant mismatches for opponents. So with the chemistry he's going to have with the 76ers, in addition to the passion he has for coaching this team and the way he can manipulate each player's strengths on the court, I definitely feel like Rivers is going to succeed big time with the 76ers. Back to you.
Thanks, Vishwa. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like I said before, Doc Rivers' hiring was definitely a W. Additionally, moving on, the Sixers front office has made some poor decisions this past year when coming to building their team. If the Sixers really want to be contenders, I say they take a year or so and build a team around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. They have a mentality to win right now, which won't happen as Al Horford just doesn't fit the roster and Tobias Harris just isn't used to his full potential. Some of the mistakes that the Sixers have made this past offseason was by signing Al Horford to a 4-year, $109 million contract in which he gets $97 million guaranteed. Not saying Al Horford is a bad player or anything, but he has had a good career in the NBA, but earning the base salary of $27 million per year while being at the age of 34 is ridiculous. And the Sixers, especially Elton Brand, should have seen that. Speaking of contracts, let's look at Tobias Harris, who is earning an absurd amount of money, as most people would consider him as an average or a little bit above average player. Tobias Harris' contract is worth 5 years, $180 million, with all of it being guaranteed. He is earning a base salary of $35 million per year. That is a crazy lot of money. I would give Tobias the benefit of the doubt that he could be better now, as he's had experience with Doc Rivers back when he was with the Clippers. This is not a good idea when they have good star players in Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. They need to build this team around good young players, which they have, and need to continue growing it, because if they are going in with the mentality, they're going to go and waste their star players' talents. Before I move on to potential trade options and free agent signings the Sixers can make, let's go to Vishwa and let's hear his thoughts on the future of this fairly young 76ers team.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up this question because, in my opinion, the 76ers, there have been many years in the past where they've had such a talented roster, but they just simply failed to have any sort of success in the postseason. First of all, if you look at their previous years, statistically, a starting lineup of Ben Simmons, JJ Redick, Robert Covington, Dario Saric, and Joel Embiid was working much better than their current starting lineup, as you see in many occasions, even though that roster back then wasn't as talented as the new guys I mentioned, like Josh Richardson or Tobias Harris or Al Horford, but their chemistry was much better. In my opinion, whether guys like Tobias Harris or Al Horford or Josh Richardson or anybody else, whether they're going to remain on the roster or not, I feel like Elton Brand's going to have to make some better decisions going forward. Maybe get rid of Al Horford, maybe Tobias Harris, but in my opinion, I feel like he would actually be pretty much better, as Doc Rivers is going to be coaching him, and he did coach him back in LA. And Al Horford, I just don't feel like his talents are going to fit the Sixers that well. He's much better suited as a small ball five. He's shown very little capability to play the power forward position, with Embiid dominating at that five. So in my opinion, there's going to be a lot of questions surrounding how the roster that they have right now is fitting, in addition to the salaries that some people like Harris and Horford are heavily overpaid, and I couldn't disagree with that. Finally, I feel like they're going to need to add some more shooting, more defense, guys that just stick to the role. Like guys like Tobias Harris and Al Horford, I feel like they're more of ISO post players. They need guys that are going to do their roles, because if you look at Embiid and Simmons, they're star players. You don't need any more star power. You just need some guys that are just going to do their job well and are going to do it at a really high level. Buddy Hield is a really terrific example. I feel like it'd be a huge, big positive if they add him. And there's been many trade rumors that Hield is linked to the 76ers. He's going to provide the shooting and the defense that they desperately need. And in addition to Hield, I feel like they're going to get many more players similar to him, maybe in the front court depth. So I feel like if the 76ers could just like repatch their roster, work to everyone's strengths, get some players that are going to work better with their young stars, Embiid and Simmons, I feel like Rivers and the squad are going to have a terrific seasons and more success in the postseason in years to come. Back to you.
Thank you, Vishwa. Moving on to our final topic of this video, I would like to discuss potential trades or free agent signings the Sixers can make this upcoming season. My first option for the Sixers is to trade for Victor Oladipo. The trade package would include the Sixers receiving Oladipo, while the Pacers receive Josh Richardson, Mike Scott, and number 21 overall pick in this upcoming draft. Now, yes, there are some cons in this. Josh Richardson, who is a good role player, and they're giving up on a future good role player, as this year's draft is filled with amazing talent. But if you look at the pros, there are many. Oladipo provides great size, standing at 6'4", 215. He has amazing defense. Obviously, over the past couple of years, he's dealt with injuries, so he won't be as good as he was in 2017, but is still a great overall defender. Victor also provides great speed, athleticism, and is also still an elite ball hawk. I think he would fit perfectly with Doc Rivers and the Sixers offense, as Ben Simmons has moved back to power forward. Now, my second option is for the Sixers if Victor Oladipo isn't an option. Go out and sign Fred VanVleet, which is a higher chance compared to Oladipo this offseason, as he's set to become an unrestricted free agent. Yes, Fred VanVleet has dealt with injuries just like Victor Oladipo, but he has had his best seasons in the NBA these past couple of years, and he's only at the age of 26. Obviously, this NBA season has been crazy because of the bubble and everything, but Fred VanVleet has averaged about 18 and 6 this season. He was known as a role player, but now as he's gotten more minutes, he has shown he's a good player. I think with Doc Rivers coaching the Sixers team and with Fred VanVleet being very young, he can really become a star in the future of the NBA. Now, if you guys enjoyed this type of content, make sure to subscribe and like for more. And until next time, peace.